Our next speaker is Dr. Thomas Cochran from Natural Resources Defense Council. Tom?
Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. With apologies to Commissioner Eisenhower, I'm going to start with an opinion rather than a fact to illustrate a point that I will get to later. But closer to facts are a slide shown at Phil Sharp's Resources for the Future program by one of your other commissioners, John Rowe, which he used to argue why he was not prepared to build a new nuclear plant today, because the capital costs are too high. So my point is that new reactor unit costs and the cost per kilowatt are both too high for new nuclear to be competitive in the United States. You'll see some new plants, but not a significant number beyond what's heavily subsidized by the government. On the other hand, nuclear fuel and O&M costs are low and in my opinion, will remain so for the foreseeable future. And my point is that DOE's nuclear energy R&D program is principally focused on the back end of the fuel cycle and on subsidizing new reactor licensing and construction, and both of these are misplaced priorities. Now, when I got in this business around 1971, the AEC had written some cost-benefit analyses and was saying that capital costs of a light water reactor were on the order of $150 a kilowatt and would be coming down due to a learning curve. And that's probably in constant dollars in the range of $700 a kilowatt today. So the capital costs have gone up by roughly a factor of 10. On the other hand, since 1944, when Alvin Weinberg and Fermi and Szilard and others, Wigner, decided to light atomic cities with nuclear power, they thought uranium was scarce, and they opted to go for a breeder reactor program. And as it turns out, that too was a fundamental error in judgment. It was true at the time because all the uranium was going to weapons, but it turns out uranium much more plentiful, and the cost of uranium long-term, discounting a couple of spikes in constant dollars, the fuel costs have gone down or stayed fairly constant for the last 40 years or so. Yet our R&D program is based on research on more ways to increase the cost of the fuel rather than on ways to reduce the cost of the reactors, the federal research, not the industry research. So what should the government focus be? First of all, in my view, it should be on improving safeguards of the nuclear fuel cycle, because that's where the problem is, on the fuel cycle side, and getting the repository program back on track. The industry focus, and it's certainly the focus of the gentlemen on this panel who have spoken just prior to me, is to try to reduce the cost, the reactor costs, and the unit costs. Now, what is the government role here? I think the government role is to engage in educating new young nuclear scientists at the universities and in engage in fundamental science research that has applicability not only to nuclear, but also other energy technologies. Commissioner Peterson made an argument for looking at novel ways or new ways or different ways of lowering the cost of construction, cost of reinforced concrete. There are other examples, and some examples that DOE is engaging in research today. I don't think the government should be subsidizing the construction costs of new nuclear power plants. This is a mature industry, and there'll be many people coming with ideas for new reactor designs, and they can certainly put together consortia and build these if they think there's an economic case without coming to the federal trough to get fed. I'm pleased that New Start has not approached the government. New Start probably with its collection of some 10 utilities and energy companies, and as well as EDF, Electricité de France, and GE, I believe, or Westinghouse, or whoever, probably has more assets than the Department of Energy at its disposal. So they certainly don't need government assistance to subsidize a good idea. I want to say something about fast reactors because we had some discussion of that by the earlier panel. I agree with, most closely, I guess, with Alan Hansen on his assessment of fast reactors. Again, we got into this business in 1944. Globally has spent probably on the order of $100 billion trying to develop liquid metal fast reactors and other fast reactors, but primarily sodium cooled. And these programs have been universal failures. I think primarily because proliferation, the higher capital costs of these reactors relative to light water reactors, which is why you see one commercial size fast reactor globally and 440 or so thermal reactors globally. They are not economical, and also they have shown historically poor reliability. I helped co-author a report on the history and status of fast reactors that I shared with you previously. So I don't believe fast reactors will contribute to reducing the repository burden by burning actinides, primarily because it would require a shift to where some 1/3 of your fleet is fast reactors, and it simply is not going to happen because of the economics. The fast reactors have an additional safeguards problem over the one-pass plutonium recycle, MOX recycle, in that the fast reactors are fueled with about 5 tons of plutonium per gigawatt, taking the Super Phoenix as an example. And then you would need 2 or 3 times as much plutonium flowing through the fuel cycle as in the core of the reactor. So there will be a huge inventory of plutonium. And I also think that even the R&D on this technology is a serious proliferation risk if you would go to Oak Ridge, you could see a single hot cell where the Oak Ridge scientists demonstrated the advanced aqueous reprocessing technology from reprocessing spent fuel to production of 3 MOX pellets. And that facility, the staff that operates that facility, and the materials that would flow through that facility are an ideal weapons program. So when you hear discussions about proliferation resistance to the fuel, you should not stop there. You should think about the spread of the technology, including the R&D technology, which I think represents a serious risk. Now, just one last comment. Earlier today, you heard a number of people talk about the rest of the world is going forward with reprocessing regardless of what we do, and there's France and Japan and Russia and India, China. Also, the Netherlands reprocesses some in France. But you didn't hear them balance their presentation by telling you the following countries have abandoned reprocessing: the United States, Germany, the Ukraine, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Spain, Belgium, Switzerland, Finland, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Hungary, and Armenia. And the following have not yet reprocessed: South Korea, Canada, Taiwan, Brazil, South Africa, Mexico, Lithuania, Argentina, Slovenia, Romania, and Pakistan. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the rest of the world is going to head down a more costly once-through reprocessing track, or develop and deploy large numbers of fast reactors. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our final